Let America be America again. Let it be the dream it used to be. Let it be the pioneer on the plain, seeking a home where he himself is free. America never was America to me. Let America be the dream the dreamers dreamed. Let it be the great, strong land of love, where never kings connive nor tyrants scheme, that any man be crushed by one above. It never was America to me. Oh, let my land be a land where liberty is crowned with no false patriotic wreath, but opportunity is real and life is free. Equality is in the air we breathe. There's never been equality for me, nor freedom in this homeland of the free. In his 1935 poem, Let America Be America Again, Langston Hughes speaks of his country with a mixture of patriotic affection and profound anger, of celebration and accusation. Hughes speaks powerfully of his own experience as a black man living in the deeply segregated society of the United States in the early part of the 20th century. He also speaks on behalf of racialized and marginalized groups reaching for the ideal of the American dream, which has remained just beyond their reach. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. also spoke about the experience of the American dream in his sermon, The Other America. There are literally two Americas. One America is beautiful, overflowing with the milk of prosperity and the honey of opportunity. This America is the habitat of millions of people who have food and material necessities for their bodies, and culture and education for their minds, and freedom and human dignity for their spirits. In this America, millions of people experience every day the opportunity of having life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness in all of their dimensions. But tragically and unfortunately, there is another America. This other America has a daily ugliness about it that constantly transforms the ebullience of hope into the fatigue of despair. In this America, people are poor by the millions. They find themselves perishing on a lonely island of poverty in the midst of a vast ocean of material prosperity. Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountain majesties above the fruited plain. Is there still an American dream? Is there still an America worth dreaming of, worth singing about? Hughes's poem continues, "Say, who are you that mumbles in the dark? And who are you that draws your veil across the stars? I am the poor white, fooled and pushed apart. I am the Negro bearing slavery's scars. I am the red man driven from the land. I am the immigrant clutching the hope I seek and finding only the same old stupid plan of dog eat dog, of mighty crush the weak. I am the young man full of strength and hope, tangled in the ancient endless chain of profit, power, gain, of grab the land, of grab the gold, of grab the ways of satisfying need, of work the men, of take the pay, of owning everything for one's own greed. I am the farmer, bondsman to the soil. I am the worker sold to the machine. I am the Negro, servant to you all. I am the people, humble, hungry, mean. Hungry yet today, despite the dream. Beaten yet today. O pioneers, I am the man who never got ahead. The poorest worker bartered through the years. If you are not already thinking of the events of the last 2 weeks in our capital, see them now in your mind's eye. See our president, our congressman declaring lies and manipulating the vulnerabilities of their listeners. See the mob of angry, ignorant, gullible, foolish, deluded, violent, white American storm the steps of the Capitol and push their way into the building, the physical seat of our government, where that dream is supposedly perpetuated and protected. See the wanton vandalism, the gleeful destruction, the attacks on the defenders, the weapons, the mockery, the insults, the prideful entitlement. Now, think of the fight for civil rights 50 years ago. See the crowds of black and white citizens marching together for an end to violent oppression. Think of the rallies and marches of 2020 to protest again against racialized violence, against systemic racism, against police brutality, against white supremacy culture at its ugliest. Oh, beautiful for heroes proved in liberating strife, who more than self their country loved, and mercy moven life. Hughes continues. Yet I'm the one who dreamt our basic dream in the old world while still a serf of kings, who dreamt a dream so strong, so brave, so true, that even yet its mighty daring sings in every brick and stone, in every furrow turned, that's made America the land it has become. Oh, I'm the man who sailed those early seas in search of what I meant to be my home. For I'm the one who left dark Ireland's shore, and Poland's plain, and England's grassy lea. And torn from black Africa's strand, I came to build a homeland of the free. The free? Who said the free? Not me. Surely not me. The millions on relief today, the millions shot down when we strike, the millions who have nothing for our pay, for all the dreams we've dreamed, and all the songs we've sung, and all the hopes we've held and all the flags we've hung, the millions who have nothing for our pay except the dream that's almost dead today. America, America, God mend thine every flaw. Is it dead? Is the American dream dead? When our nation's president spits on the Constitution and leads insurrection against our Congress, when police beat citizens peacefully protesting against violence toward Black persons, and then the same police open the gates for armed, violent white rioters to allow them access to attack our Capitol, when those elected to serve the citizenry actively work to undermine a certified and recertified election, you got to ask yourself, is there any America left at all? Confirm thy soul in self-control, thy liberty in law. By 1967, a year before his assassination, Martin Luther King Jr. was shifting his focus away from the battles against segregation and for basic decency to the more complex problem of systemic cultural racism. The people of the United States who had been appalled by bus attacks and police dogs were not prepared to go the next step and embrace racial equality in daily life. Now let me say that the struggle for civil rights and the struggle to make these two Americas one America is still much more difficult today than it was years ago. But we must see that the struggle today is much more difficult because we are struggling now for genuine equality. And it's much easier to integrate a lunch counter than it is to guarantee a livable income and a good solid job. It's much easier to guarantee the right to vote than it is to guarantee the right to live in sanitary, decent housing conditions. It is much easier to integrate a public park than it is to make genuine, quality, integrated education a reality. To change the culture King lived in, defined by whiteness, which favored white persons, which gave advantage and privilege to white persons, and placed all other racialized identities under, beneath, below the white identity in wealth, in housing options, in political power, in work opportunities. Well, this was a much more difficult challenge in the fight for justice. King continues, and I came to see that so many people who supported morally and even financially what we were doing in Birmingham and Selma were really outraged against the extremist behavior of Bull Connor and Jim Clark toward Negroes, rather than believing in genuine equality for Negroes. Now, we've got to come to see that racism is still alive in American society and much more widespread than we realized. And we must see racism for what it is. It is a myth of the superior and the inferior race. It is not the assertion that certain people are behind culturally or otherwise because of environmental conditions. It is the affirmation that the very being of a people is inferior, and that is the great tragedy of it. I submit that however unpleasant it is, we must honestly see and admit that racism is still deeply rooted all over America. It is still deeply rooted in the North, and it is still deeply rooted in the South. King, like Hughes, spoke of the place of the immigrants and the exiles in our country. The black exiles from Africa did not immigrate willingly from their homes. They came starving, injured, beaten, in chains. It is said that the Statue of Liberty in America is a home of exiles, the home of its white exiles from Europe. But it has not evinced the same kind of maternal care and concern for its black exiles from Africa. King and Hughes both hold up a mirror, the same mirror really, to reflect truth about America. Truth in 1935, truth in 1967, truth in 2021. America is still not living up to her promises, still not living out of the values espoused by founders and leaders alike. All of this and all of these things tell us that America has been backlashing on the whole question of basic constitutional and God-given rights for Negroes and other disadvantaged groups for more than 300 years. And what is it that America has failed to hear? It has failed to hear that the plight of the Negro poor has worsened over the years. It has failed to hear that the promises of freedom and justice have not been met. And it has failed to hear that large segments of white society are more concerned about tranquility and the status quo than about justice, equality, and humanity. As the images of months of largely peaceful protests on behalf of justice for black citizens flash in our minds, juxtaposed with scenes of an enraged white mob rioting in our capital, King's words ring eerily in our ears from 50 years ago. As long as America postpones justice, we stand in the position of having these recurrences of violence and riots over and over again. Let me say another thing. Although it may be true that morality cannot be legislated, behavior can be regulated. Even though it may be true that the law cannot change the heart, it can restrain the heartless. Even though it may be true that the law cannot make a man love me, it can restrain him from lynching me. Let us be wary of calls for unity as code for the marginalized to settle down, stop complaining so we can just move on. An America united under the tyranny of white supremacy is not an America I want to sing about, even though it might on the surface feel more comfortable for me as a white person. Hughes and King both remind us that to be the real America is to dismantle all systems of oppression and remake our nation. The patriot's dream is not a romantic notion of a new Europe where white people are entitled to fulfillment and non-whites take the scraps from under the table. Langston Hughes cries out, "Oh, let America be America again. The land that never has been yet, and yet must be. The land where every man is free. The land that's mine, the poor man's, Indians, Negroes, me, who made America, whose sweat and blood, whose faith and pain, whose hand at the foundry, whose plow in the rain, must bring back our mighty dream again. Sure, call me any ugly name you choose. The steel of freedom does not stain. From those who live like leeches on the people's lives, we must take back our land again. America. Take back our land, our country. The rioters yelled words like that as they battered down the doors of the U.S. Capitol building. Take it back from whom? Here are white supremacists squealing because they are losing control over what they have always taken for granted as their America. It's not theirs anymore. Consider the reinvention of the American dream by Dr. King. In a real sense, we're all caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. And so we are all in the same situation. The salvation of the Negro will mean the salvation of the white man. And the destruction of the life and of the ongoing progress of the Negro will be the destruction of the ongoing progress of the nation. With this faith, we will be able to transform the jangling chords of our nation into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood. With this faith, we will be able to speed up the day when all of God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will be able to join hands and live together as brothers and sisters, as family, all over this great nation. What shall we do, citizens? Shall we abandon this country to deteriorate and disintegrate in the toxicity of oppression and systemic injustice? Shall we shrug and shake our heads and armor ourselves to live compartmentalized lives of privilege, those who can't afford it, while the rest of the country sinks into the abyss? Shall we cower in fear of white supremacists raging and threatening in their fearful tantrums? King and Hughes and millions of others cry out to us from history, do not abandon this America. Do not give up on the dream. Remake, rework, rewrite, renew, recreate that dream. Oh, yes, I say it plain. America never was America to me. And yet I swear this oath. America will be. Out of the rack and ruin of our gangster death, the rape and rot of graft and stealth and lies, we the people must redeem the land, the mines, the plants, the rivers, the mountains, and the endless plain, all the stretch of these great green states, and make America again. Amen. Shalom. Blessed be.